The government's move to make Palestine Action a prescribed organisation is without precedent. Unlike Palestine Action, the 95 organisations already prescribed by the government are said to support the use of violence to further their political goals. Nowhere on the political Palestine Action website is there any call to use physical violence, and as far as I understand it, the government position does not involve any allegations of Palestine Action inciting violence. In fact, what Palestine Action are very publicly calling for is an end to the catastrophic violence against the people of Palestine. Legislation to prescribe organisations under terrorism laws first date back to the Prevention of Terrorism Act 1974, which was specifically introduced to ban the official and provisional IRA. There is no established definition of terrorism under international law. There's a great deal of debate over what actions are terrorist and which actions are legitimate resistance against oppressive governments. There is an overwhelming consensus that terrorism involves the use or threat of violence against civilians for a political purpose. In 2004, a Secretary General of the United Nations report described terrorism as any act intended to cause death or serious bodily harm to civilians or non-combatants with the purpose of intimidating a population or compelling a government or an international organisation to do so or abstain from doing any act. In the UK, the legal definition of terrorism is provided in Section 1 of the Terrorism Act 2000. So this defines terrorism as the use or threat of action which involves serious violence against a person, involves serious damage to property, endangers a person's life, creates a serious risk to the health or safety of the public, or is designed to seriously interfere with or seriously disrupt an electronic system. In circumstances where the use or threat is designed to influence the government or to intimidate the public or section the public, and the threat is made for the purpose of advancing a political, religious or ideological use. The purpose of the definition is not to define a crime of terrorism. Virtually any terrorist offence is already a violation of existing criminal law, such as incitement, or incitement to cause explosions or murder. Instead, Section 1 acts as a trigger for the use of other counter-terrorism measures. In January of this year, an Amnesty International briefing noted the past 15 years has seen the adoption of wave upon wave of new counter-terror legislation, together with the increasing securitization of life in the UK. This securitization continues to negatively affect a wide range of human rights. So the consequences of being a prescribed organisation, there are a number of offences which criminalises anybody being part of a prescribed organisation. So Section 11 of the Terrorism Act 2000 creates a criminal offence to be a member of a prescribed organisation. Section 12 creates an offence to support a prescribed organisation. So if a person commits a Section 12 offence, if they invite support for a prescribed organisation and the support is not restricted to the provision of money or property, a person commits an offence if the person expresses an opinion or belief that is supportive of a prescribed organisation and is reckless as to whether the person to whom the expression is directed will be encouraging to support a prescribed organisation. A person commits an offence if he arranges, manages, or assists in arranging or managing a meeting which he knows is designed to support a prescribed organisation or further the activities of a prescribed organisation. And then a person commits an offence if he addresses a meeting and the purpose of his address is to encourage support for a prescribed organisation. And a meeting is defined as having as few as 3 participants. Section 13 creates an offence if a person wears clothing or carries or displays articles in public in such a way or in such circumstances as to arouse reasonable suspicion that the individual is a member or supporter of a prescribed organisation. If a person publishes an image of an item of clothing or other articles such as a flag or logo in the same circumstances. Don't know if anybody here knows a local band called Kneecap. So A well-known example of this power being used was used by the police in the recent arrest of Mo Farah. He faces terror charges for allegedly picking up a Hezbollah flag thrown from the crowd at a gate at the Kentish Town Forum in November 2024 and waving it. I think that's the IDF trying to interfere with signals here. Just can't get through it here. So Section 58 of the Terrorism Act 2000 also creates an offence to collect, make a record, or be in possession of information of a kind likely to be useful to a person committing or preparing an act of terrorism. The Counter-Terrorism and Border Security Act 2019 introduced new provisions to extend the offence to cover those who view material over the internet, streaming or downloading it. So that would mean any Palestinian Action manuals, instructions, guides, etc. would be illegal to possess and download. And download could simply mean that you've clicked on a website and a copy of the link downloads to a temporary folder on your computer or mobile phone. So under Sections 11 and 12 of the Terrorism Act, the penalties for prescription offences are a maximum of 14 years in prison and or a fine. And the maximum penalty for Section 13 offences is 6 months in prison and or a fine not exceeding £5,000. So the Home Secretary has said that she will present a draft prescription order before Parliament. And I've just heard today that the draft order has been included in a draft bill that includes two neo-Nazi parties as well. And that was introduced today, what I've been told. So faced with such draconian measures, they can feel totally daunting and hopeless to do anything to stop the government's plans. However, there are still a number of actions that every individual citizen can take. You can write to your local MP. You can show support and attend lawful demonstrations such as this one. The government's plans to prescribe Palestinian action still has to get through Parliament, and politicians do respond to public pressure. The ban cannot be applied retrospectively. It can't be used by the police for things that have already happened. If you find yourself in the extremely unfortunate position of being arrested, try not to panic. You'll be brought to a police station, most likely Musgrave. From there, you can request a solicitor who will attend with you and keep you advised of your rights at every stage of the process. You'll be provided with a solicitor of your own choice, free of charge under the legal aid system. If the prescription order is passed into law, no doubt there will be challenges taken in the courts even before the ink is dried. So we have lodged judicial review proceedings in the High Court in Belfast on behalf of Charge of Palestine. The challenge funding provided by the Department of Economy and InvestNI to companies directly involved in the supply chain of components and or equipment for F-35 fighter jets, which could be used by Israel to drop bombs in Gaza. This is despite the UK government accepting that there's a real risk that Israel might commit a serious violation of international humanitarian law, including the use of F-35 fighter jets. So in that case, we have a review on the 10th of September, and on the 22nd of October we'll have a full hearing. And earlier today, the High Court in London dismissed a similar judicial review taken by Al-Haq. Although we are disappointed for the Palestinian people and our legal colleagues in London, we are not disheartened for our case in Belfast. The London court in its ruling said that the case was about whether the court could rule on withdrawal from the international F-35 programme, which was a matter for the executive, not for the courts. One of the central points in our case is that InvestNI did not bring the funding for debate to the executive as they should have done under their own rules. And I consulted with our legal team today, and we're very, very hopeful that we can still be successful in our case in Belfast. We also hope to be joined in our case by Act Now and the Pills Project, and we've already started working together with them on their application. So finally, just before I left for coming here today earlier, Al Jazeera was reporting that another 80 people were killed by the IDF in Gaza today.
Shame. Shame. Terrorists.
We can only pray that doesn't rise to 81 people. And everyone here, I know, will do all we can to make sure that Palestine Action doesn't become the 96 prescribed group. We're all Palestine.